we ready?
We're ready.
Okay, we're all lined up.
Yeah.
Real quick, for the Vegas Building Tours podcast workplace, which ones are you going to talk about?
We're gonna just riff it.
Riff it? Okay,
Yep.
back and forth, cool.
Okay. Welcome back to the channel. We are in a new spot, the board room. Very apropos for what we're gonna be talking about today. So we just finished up our Q1 2022 market report about Portland, sort of what's going on, who's taking space, who's not taking space, who's giving back space, how much space is on the market, and all of that. But since I'm not the best stat guy, we got Connors here. So Connors, what's happened in the last 3 months?
The last 3 months has been interesting. It's up and down. We see a lot of news about leasing activity, but at the same time, we're getting a lot of space back. You know, for reference, we've had, over the last 4 quarters, we've had 4.5 million square feet of leased space, which is phenomenal. Yet at the same time, we've got nearly double that in new available space. I mean, it's a wild trend. We have 16.5 million square feet of available office space in the Portland metro market, which is the most ever. And I know numbers are boring sometimes, but these are really important. They're really important to consider. And you know, as you dive in, you'll see that there's pockets. Some submarkets have more, some have less, and that creates another challenge. But ultimately, you know, ultimately activity is picking up, and that's what's important. Yeah. But you know, there's still a lot of space to be had.
We had a low benchmark for the last 2 years, obviously with COVID. It's any sort of uptick, I think, is positive for us. So if there's 60 million square feet of availability, our vacancy rate is continuing to slide up to what, 13-14%?
Yeah, it's at 13.1%. Yeah, which you know,
and we're seeing downward pressure on rents for the first time in a long time.
We've got
right?
Yes, year over year, we've got decrease of about 1% on both Class A and Class B space. Usually you see Class B, you know, remain steady. Yeah. But that's pretty phenomenal stat. I mean, you see a lot of big concession packages to keep a face rate up.
What do you mean by that? Like what's?
Well, you know, if you go into a lease, a 5-year lease or a 7-year lease, a landlord might offer you a year of free rent, and they might offer you a huge TI package to get you in the space, but they want to keep that starting rent per square foot number up there, right? Yeah. You know, that supports the financing of the building, it supports sales of buildings, and so on. But we're starting to see that come down. I mean, ultimately, if you're a tenant and you're smart about it, you know that you're going to be paying that year over year.
And when we mean smart about it, you mean hire people like us to walk.
That is exactly.
Okay. I just want to be clear on what you mean by that. So what submarkets, what areas of town have been darlings in COVID, or maybe been darlings in the last 12 months or 18 months? Because downtown has been challenging. There's been a lot of new property coming on the market. You can click to our walking tour of Block 16, the Galleria, and 12 West on the screen, which is going to be great. But what submarkets outside of downtown have flourished?
I think, I mean, there's really one that stands out, and that's Cruise Way in the I-5 corridor. They've captured a lot of the Class A CBD office tenants who have decided to relocate. That's been a big one. Yeah. But we're seeing a lot of other activity in Vancouver. Yeah. Zoom Info signed a huge lease. I mean, that was massive lease. Also Sunset Corridor, I mean, 6 leases over 50,000 square feet. Damn, that's amazing. Yeah. You know, that's a huge number for Sunset Corridor. And Sunset Corridor is a whole nother animal. I mean, I think people don't realize there's almost 15 million square feet of office space in Hillsborough and part of Beaverton. That's a big number. Yeah. And this is, you know, and you know, about 3 million is taken up by Nike, and another 2 million is taken up by Microsoft. But there's still a lot. By Intel, correct. Yeah. It's funny you say that because Microsoft did just sign.
That's right. Yeah.
65,000 square feet there. You know, it's the names and numbers don't always match up. So, you know, we've got that. I mean, and then you go back to CBD, which has always been the largest quantity or the largest supply in the market. Yeah,
concentration.
And the availability there is almost 26%, which is a lot of space.
Yeah, But that's a combination of space that's come on the market and a combination of space that's on the sublease market, right? Like we've seen a tremendous amount of space come on the sublease market. The challenge is that there hasn't been a lot of groups to backfill that. And a couple, from a downtown perspective, we've seen a couple strong renewals. Moda Tower just renewed for about 150,000 feet at Moda Tower, its namesake, which is really great for downtown. We had a couple intermarket relos. Avangrid relocated over to Montgomery Park, Montgomery Park is going to be an incredible project over the course of the next 5 to 10 years. They've got $120 million that's going into that development. It's going to be a showcase for sure. And then you've got TriMet, which relocated there into just under 100,000 feet downtown. And there's other onesie twosies that are, when I say onesie twosies, it's like 15 to 20 to 30,000 feet.
Yes.
But the big blocks like that, we're still trying to lure some groups.
Yeah, I think, to me, I know people are looking for an optimistic outview of downtown, and to me, over the course of the last year, we've seen some notable professional services firms renew. In some cases, they're downsizing their space, but they're committing to 5 or they're committing to 7 years downtown. So you read into that and you say, okay, we've got some faith that downtown is going to be coming back up. And I think ultimately it has to. There's going to be people going to work downtown. Yeah. It's a traditional model of being together in a collaborative office with amenities right on the first floor, and a couple blocks away is still a way companies operate.
Yeah, and I think it's a big thing that we're seeing. Talking. You can click on the channel here too to see what we did with our workplace strategy with the partners group down in Tigard. But we're seeing a lot of those discussions with groups on the entire workplace strategy. Like, what's the purpose of the office? Is it hybrid? Are we anchored? Who are we? So with our workforce team and our workplace team, 2 different skill sets. Your workforce obviously being the people behind it, and then workplace obviously the physical footprint and what's inside the space. But there's been so much discussion, and our team has been walking clients through that really over the last 18 months, and that has been a real eye-opening experience. Walking companies through that to help them actually figure out what the plan is for them next.
Yes, and help communicate that to employees. I mean, I think that's a really big piece.
Right. Yeah. There's whole comms around it.
I mean, think of the story of Nike. They said return to the office in June of last year. Right. Return to the office in September. Return to the office in March. Yeah. Do 2 days. Do 3 days. That's complicated for employees, particularly if employees have gotten into a rhythm of being able to work from home or work while they're traveling, for instance. Right. So the communication, I think, is key, and that's something we speak with Jillian about. Yeah. And often. I think the partners group that the workplace strategy video that we did was excellent. Yeah.
I think the other thing to think about too is from a trending standpoint is on the PM, on the construction side, construction costs, as everyone knows, have been sort of skyrocketing the last 2 years. Yeah. And so I think that's a big thing to think about too when you're talking about the whole workplace and real estate journey. Doesn't just include doing a deal, right? Doing a transaction or looking at the market components of the vacancies and the rents and stuff. It's so much of it also is bringing in PM early. You can see what we've done on the channel too with talking with Josh and Jess on why it's important to bring in PM early. And then we recently walked a space with the OHSU Foundation, which is they brought us in to help on the project management side to deliver their new headquarters. So getting control of those costs early on, having an advisory team to help you, guide you through that, I think is a critical part to consider as we're getting into that piece of people coming back, retrofitting their space, thinking about what the next thing is.
Yes, absolutely. And on that note, I did want to review our 3 trends, right? And these trends are all linked ultimately, but what we've seen is, I think as companies are doing this workplace strategy, they're realizing, okay, we don't need as much space. In some cases, we see a 50% reduction. Yeah. Sometimes it's a 25%. But ultimately, you look at that means you're going to pay less in rent. And what they're doing, and we've noticed this in a couple instances, is you're relocating to new, nice buildings.
Yeah, it's a flight to quality.
Yeah, with nice amenities, right? Rooftop decks, good fitness centers, good surrounding restaurants, and so forth.
Josh would add, good airflow, good HVAC. Yes, obviously that's a huge piece. Yeah.
And we, again, I think we overlook things like that, but ultimately new construction built in the last 10 years is generally energy efficient buildings with all mechanicals updated and working properly, and that's an important thing, right? In this day and age. Yeah. So if you look at that, you pair that with our second trend, which is decreasing rent, which we've spoken about before. Right. That's a big thing, and that's decreasing rent in Class A properties. Again, keep in mind, decreasing rent overall for all properties, yes, it might be going down, but when you have Class A new construction properties that rent is starting to go down. That's a significant thing that we should keep in mind.
Yeah.
And then the last thing I think I would point out, which also is a component of those previous two trends, is that moving forward, new projects are going to be limited, right?
Yeah.
You had, I mean,
we've already had a lot of supply come hit the market.
Yes.
So there's there's not a lot of groups that are going to be doing spec development.
Yeah.
So,
and you see stuff like Block 216, right? The Ritz-Carlton development, which is a very cool building, but that's been, the planning I think started 7 years ago. They broke ground 2 years ago. And then, so now they're it'll be delivered in 2023. It's going to be a beautiful building, but they're not going to stop that cold turkey, right? They've already put in all of that work. That's going to be a new building. Now, you go back to trend one that we just discussed. I think some of the under construction properties are still optimistic because we've seen this change in companies moving to new projects, right?
Yeah.
So that's really important. If you have any questions on this report as you're reviewing it, please reach out to anyone on the team. We all put a lot of effort into this to make sure we're providing accurate numbers and good information for groups. So thanks again for watching, and really hope this helps you as you consider your next steps.